why does it still seem so censored? I mean, it just,
Well,
I don't get it. And the relation I had to that is, I was in Manhattan on 9/11. And this was something that, because of the TV coverage, and obviously because I saw it with my own eyes, it was something that you just could not avoid the horror of that day. And there was no question how bad it truly was, especially going into the city in the days and months after, still seeing the smoke, still smelling.
Right, but they censored that as well on TV. People
Yeah.
jumping off of the building. I don't remember seeing that anywhere. I mean, I heard stories.
you
about it.
talk a lot.
They
Have a
did-
candy.
You
too.
I have mine still.
No, have another one.
So they censored that as well.
All right.
So I think, I don't know why or what determines what gets censored and what doesn't get censored, but all through history, things are censored. I don't know. I don't know why or how it happens, but it always gets censored to some degree.
Look, if somebody will tell me that, I don't know what I would do. I can understand people don't believe that.
You see, you go to eat supper or lunch or whatever, you look at the plate and you remind yourself what was then. Every time is the same thing. You do something here, you remember what happened. Nothing. At that time was nothing.
That's how I didn't mention it. We were standing and working. We were talking to each other. You know what we were talking about? What was home, what we ate, what kind of food my mother prepared, my father prepared.
Because you were talking about the good times. You
Right.
remember the good times.
That's kept us alive. I said, remember what we ate this day? Remember what my mother baked? That's what we were talking about.
Yeah.
It's hard to imagine if you went through this. If you didn't even go through it, it's hard to imagine.
And if something is in front of me to eat, I can't eat it.
Oh, come
When
on.
I eat
Don't
it,
say that you can eat it. You can eat a horse.
I eat it. I don't want to leave anything on the plate.
No, that's
Right.
That's right.
But all I remember
Because you didn't want
is
to
when
waste
I
anything.
didn't have it.
Right.
Did I tell you, it's cheaper to clothe them than to feed them. Anything on the table you leave on the table is gone in 5 minutes.
Well,
I'm glad I can eat.
That's right.
No, I know why. He's got 2 hollow legs.
Well, another reason why I brought you here today to tell your story is so that there is yet another, concrete documentation of what happened. The first time we met was at her class from Washington School. It was a 5th grade class.
Correct.
So now you're telling a story to a younger generation that so many people feel is so disenchanted with everything. The violence that's in film, the violence that's on TV, the war that continues to go on that almost seems like an afterthought now on the news. And this generation just sort of lets it roll off. These were kids that if they were barely a few months old when 9/11 happened, And a lot of people say that this is a generation that, in a way it's good. They've never had to experience anything like this.
Yeah.
And hopefully they never will have to. But does that, it keeps them disenchanted. I mean, a lot of people say this is such an important thing for them to know. They have to learn this history so that it doesn't happen again. But how do we teach them without showing them really what happened?
I want to tell you so. I'm sorry to interrupt you. If you want to know how kids feel, I have 1,500 letters from kids. Some of them are printed. I'm on a typewriter or whatever. I read those. Handwritten I cannot see because I have a macular degeneration. So he read it to me. Some letters, if you see, I cry. Believe me, how they tell me how they appreciate their siblings and their mother and father. Some of them tell me we could never live through it. Letters, I cry. Ask them, I sit and I cry when I understand. I have 1,500 of them. And now I'm supposed to get some from publish. So the lady wants to write a book with me. librarian from the Islam school. She told me she's going to bring me a copy of the film they made, and she's going to bring me the letters too. So I don't know when she's going to bring it.
But a lot of the kids say that listening to him make them treat their siblings differently, better, because what happened to two of them. And so even that, if he could affect one person's life by what he is talking about, I mean, this is something he has to keep doing.
It's really true, because I've had my students, we work usually for about a month on learning about what led up to it. I start them with basically 1930s.
Yeah.
And I try to build them up so they know what took place, World War I, World War II. So they have some background.
Yeah.
And then we talk about, you know, the differences and how a whole bunch of people were affected. As you mentioned, it was not just the Jews. And so they were very surprised to find that out. So they have that information, and they kind of have it, and they kind of share a little bit of that with me. But it's not until you guys come and they hear the actual story and they feel the emotion in your voice that next day after you had already left, I had billions of questions asked of me, and they wanted to know, oh my gosh, you know, like, they did have some fear. They did worry, will this ever happen again? And that's why I said that's why we can't forget. That's why we have to always share these stories so that people will know what really took place. Not the movies, not just the little nonfiction, the fictional stories that were written, the real story. And that's why we're so appreciative to what you guys are
Do
doing.
you know, I had an aunt who was living in Berlin with her daughter and her husband. They had a shoe factory in Germany, in Berlin. They had on the Kurfürstendamm, that's the most famous street in Berlin. Very wealthy people. They were coming to us every year just for a visit, for the mountains, for a vacation. When she was born in the United States, because my aunt was here in the United States already, and the daughter was born here in the United States. The daughter was American citizen. In 1938, they packed up the factory and they brought it to Los Angeles. And they opened up a factory in Los Angeles. My aunt herself, she couldn't live with him because she wanted to say goodbye to her brother and sister. She came to our town, and she was caught. The war started. She couldn't get out. And she would perish with the rest of our
She never got out.
She couldn't get out. Yeah, they were born here.
Right.
Wow.
I have so many different stories to say, I cannot think of everything.
Well, I mean, a question I asked you a couple minutes ago, a story I explained to you about the woman at my church
Yeah.
in New Providence.
Yeah.
Did you, I mean, after everything you went through, at any time, did you ever lose your faith? Did you ever just ask God, like, what are you
Let me
doing? You know.
Okay, let me tell you. I never thought about religion during the 8 years. I never thought about anything about religion. I remembered everything in my mind, but I never thought of, give it a thought. I was studying very not religious, sage book from sages wrote thousands of years ago, before the war started. You know, I went to school half a day. The other half I went to religious schools. And as a matter of fact, I had a question from one of the books. They asked a question in that book about something, and I remembered the question. I never had the answer because the next day the Germans came. I never knew the answer of it. You know? You understand what I'm talking about? Mm-hmm. I had all the religious education, and I was never religious. Look, I knew I was a Jew. I was never. I didn't pay attention to it. My family wasn't too religious. They went to the holidays. They went to temples or whatever it is. Mm-hmm. I never thought of it. But my education was religious too. Every afternoon, after I finished public school, I went afternoon to religious schools till late at night. I was studying. That's why I'm in that temple. I sometimes I'd conduct prayers there.
When did you start sharing your experiences, like with your son?
Oh, I knew about it.
I was open to him because people tell me that I know. My father, grandfather, whatever, I forgot already, never mentioned it.
Yeah, he has friends who never talk to the kids about, and they experience similar things. Never talk to the kids about it. I always knew about it. They always were open and talked about it. And we have friends, the kids never knew anything about it. The parents didn't want to talk about it. They wanted to forget about it. So it's like everything else. Everybody's different,
Right.
and people react differently. And the woman that you know who converted, she decided she wanted to change religions. It's a personal thing.
It's a
but
personal thing. Like I told you with the two brothers, I told you about it. They said, after God could do this to us, I don't believe in a God anymore. That's what they were telling me. They went to Australia.
yeah, they don't believe in anything, the other people that he's talking about.
They're friends of mine. Now look, like told you, I was never very religious. They sent me to school, and I was a good student. I absorbed everything. Everything was mine. But during the war, I didn't think about religion at all. I didn't think about it.
Too busy concentrating on survival.
Surviving, yeah.
Yeah.
With me, I was 13 years old when the war broke out. I didn't have this problem.
He didn't have the education.
I went to a religious school, but not as far as he did, because he had two years ahead of me. And with me, it's
He went to a religious, little bit religious. We had religious in our schools. We had every week an hour of religious service in the public schools. In Poland, most of the Polish people are Catholics. So the priest used to have an hour a week, and not a rabbi, was a professor who taught religion. I knew more than he did. I swear to you. Because I was every day, after school I came, supper was, the main supper, main meal was lunchtime. I came home from school, I had lunch, I had to go back to school. Every day in and day out. The only free time I had came Saturday. I had to rehearse in front of my family what I learned during the week. Otherwise, I couldn't go play. That's how I was. This guy, he admitted how many times I slapped him over the head. Because he was always in trouble.
Yeah, he was a goody two-shoes. This was the bad guy over here, from what I heard.
And if I tell you stories, you won't believe. If he was in this country, he'd be in jail. Juvenile delinquent. You know what I did? I have to tell you because I can hold back. He was like, a lot of snow and ice in our town. Around the square, it was a big square. And it was stores, all around it was stores. Some merchants, let's say, I'll give you an example, sprats. You know what sprats is? Little fish. The merchants used to put boxes in front so people came in and buy it. They kept it outside.
yeah, winter time.
Because it's cold, yeah.
You know what his friends did? You know what his friends did with him? They was on skis, not on skis, on skates,
Ice skates.
running around and grabbing this. He would be in jail that he was here.
I admit it.
It was just a little
So
fish.
every time, look, my friends, I had a lot of friends, my family friends. Her son, the people, I tell you about one person. Her son was a friend of us. Sometimes he went with me. I had friends too. I had a lot of friends. If she looks for her son, she didn't know where her son was. He was just like him. And somebody told her, he's with Emil, he's with me. Oh, that's okay, he'll be fine. I'm not lying, I swear.
That's true.
That's what he admits it. He was so bad. Every time he did something, I had to slap him. And then I was the guilty party because my mother was mad at me that I slapped him. I mean it.
He seems kind of smiling, though.
And then, he admits it.
Apparently, it's true from what I've heard all
He's
my life.
not denying it.
No.
So the last thing I'm curious about
Yeah.
is everything that you experienced, through the war,
Yeah.
and then as far as everyone from the history books is concerned, it's 1945 and it was over and
Yeah.
everything started getting back to normal. Not necessarily for you. You said you continued on having to deal with the Russians. And it went on for years, even getting away from that and this and that. When was the moment that you finally were able to sit back and say, okay, I think I'll live through that. I think it's
I
over.
was always an optimist.
Yeah.
I always thought I'm gonna go through it. Even my friends with me. You know something? I had a lot of friends with me. None of them is alive. Only 3 of us are left. Him, me, and another guy. No, he lives in Chicago. My best friend just passed away last year. The woman knew about him. She told me she was in the museum. His name is
Professor from Germany. He's talking.
Yeah. He passed away last week. The only 3 of us alive from that part. There's a lot of Holocaust survivors. Most of them don't want to talk about it. But my friends that I know, there's only 3 of us that I know.
When I was in before we came together, I was in the sawmill. They put me in a
Sometimes I'm sorry, I helped them.
in a room where they
He's
made steam to turn the saws to cut the boards.
It's
Now,
working by steam.
A boy, small as I am, he passed away a couple of years ago. He was living Livingston or wherever. We were underneath the saws, and we were in a box. We put the sawdust and took it up 6 or 7 steps, and throw in the
Oven.
sawdust in the fireplace to make the steam for the thing. Now we were without shirts because it was hot. One day in wintertime, they had too many people. That's what I thought.
What do you mean they had too many?
Too many prisoners.
Oh, okay.
And they made a selection. And everybody was in the front of with the guards. There was a couple Gestapo men with them. And everybody had to go there, and they took out 10 people. Now when they took out, we didn't know because we were separate from the rest of the people. One of the people with the work in the engine room told us to get out because they counting. Now we didn't have any chance to put the clothes on.
So you're right.
We were running, it was freezing, without shirts. We came to there, and the Gestapo
Go back.
did like this: go back, because we were working, and the rest of the people, they took the 10 people between the other people.
Look, this we will use. I give you examples. First thing with the rope, and the other side, I got them out of it. All those people died. And in our town, they took away most of the important people, doctors, lawyers, also. They selected people. Same thing with him. They put me on one side, like Mengele. He put him on the list. They didn't put me. See, the selections were daily.
They saw that I was working without a shirt,
Right.
in freezing weather. They sent me right back.
Why don't you work now? We have a lot of.
I'm waiting for the food to eat it. And,
I know that. I know that.
Who lived and who died is a matter of luck.
That's what it seems
Yeah,
like.
there was all
And
luck.
luck and a little bit of in his case.
Perseverance.
Yeah, whatever you want to use that word, fine. I was going to say finagling. but-
Believe me, I drove him nuts. That's why I survived.
But you're here telling
And
your story.
I had a sense of humor too. Not only I talked about, I made them jokes, they're laughing. That's how I got through.
Now, the only thing that would help me a lot is the deputy of the police.
Yeah, well, that was.
Well, that's because you were up on the roof, and
Because when they took me back down, after the guards came back from Auschwitz and looking for my number, they looking for me, and the deputy, the commandant of the Jewish police, was taking me down to the Gestapo people. The deputy chief was hollering to him, "Watch out for him." That's all he said, "Watch out for him."
again, another thing of luck.
Right, absolutely.
Nothing, I mean.
You happened to be on top of the building,
Building,
and he
that's
called
it.
you down, and he took a
And-
liking to you, and because of that, you got the
Whenever-
food and the clothes and whatever.
Whenever I
that other
wanted
people
to
didn't get.
something, you couldn't get it. When he took me down and he talked to him, and he said, "This is the boy who you took out from the top of the roof. This is the boy." This probably would save my life too.
It's a matter of, everything was a matter of luck.
Yeah,
Not at all.
absolutely.
And I didn't know what I was doing. I just walked away. I mean it. I didn't think of it. But I saw people around me, boys and elderly people, and I didn't know what Auschwitz was. Nobody knew. And I asked somebody, what they gonna do to us? We're supposed to go to Auschwitz. No, nobody knew. To a different camp. And this was in 1944 already.
Look, if I tell you whatever I saw, you wouldn't believe it. I remember one case. I remember one thing I do remember all the time. I saved 4 lives that I know of. The 2 kids and the couple.
But you saved him twice.
Forget about him.
guys saved each other.
Sometimes I'm sorry.
Yeah, he saved him too.
That's
the
it.
White House.
That's right.
One day, I have to, I don't know, I shouldn't, I will. I was sitting in a bar, I told sometime I work nights because they called me to fix something I had to do at night. So I was in the barrack and look at the window, I saw the commandant with another prisoner. I don't know who that was, I had no idea. With a bunch of German officers, and they had a guy there. I don't know who he was. And they had dogs, big dogs. Those dogs eating people. And he sicked the dogs on the guy and they tore him apart in front of my eyes. No, I saw it, and I didn't never. I was afraid of myself. Although I was hiding, I didn't see me.
But
And
you
I
couldn't
saw
do
them.
anything anyway.
Huh?
You couldn't do anything.
No, I couldn't do.
They were big dogs.
They had dogs, he ripped in front of me, he sicked the dogs on a person. I had no idea who he was. They tore him apart.
And the Germans were laughing.
Yeah. But see, it's hard to explain. People don't understand
No.
that.
Because we've become desensitized.
It's hard to believe. I don't doubt that people don't believe. It's hard to believe that people can be so cruel to other people.
Right.
It happens all over the world now.
All my life I try to help people. All my life. That's how I was. Him I hit every time.
You try your best, right?
You do
Yeah, I try
have.
to better. Now I'm afraid of it.
Well,
Okay.
I think
You had enough of me, right? Is that what you want to say?
I'm exhausted.
Till next
I don't blame you. I don't blame you.
We're here, we're alive, and hope for the best.